And away we go. So, let's just get right into it. I've said enough. No, I'm yet to say anything yet in this episode. Well, of course, we all know where this goes, especially given the last few episodes. I read out things that me and the lads of the podcast have sent in our group chat and what we think of the situation. So, starting off with, I've sent 2 Instagram reels to the group chat. Now, the first one is in relations to artificial intelligence, data centers, and water consumption. And here is the audio for that video.
I think if you're going to be a hater, you should at least be pretty knowledgeable about the topic. And let me tell you, almost everyone is lying about AI water use in both directions. Because there's an impossible contradiction. Sam Altman says only 0.3 milliliters are used. But Morgan Stanley projects 1 trillion liters of water used annually by 2028. No matter how you multiply 0.3 milliliters, you're never getting to 1 trillion liters. Altman's figure is purposely deceiving you because he's only counting water used at the moment you submit a prompt. He's leaving out the most water-intensive part of the process, which is training these models. It's like a butcher telling you no animals were harmed in the transportation of the meat. Kind of missing the point. The 1 trillion liter projection is including the water flowing through power plants that generate electricity for data centers. But the thing is, 98% of this water is returned to its source. Not to mention, to put it into context, there are so many industries that are way more water intensive than AI. If you're really concerned about water use, consider cutting out corn next time you go to Chipotle. Corn production just in the US uses 80 times more water annually than all global AI data centers combined. The point is, such a nuanced topic, which makes it really easy for either side to cherry pick numbers that serve a narrative.
Very, very good point. Well, I will say, there are certainly flaws on both sides of the same argument. Whilst I do question why there's so many data centers being built in the first place, and why do they need so much water? Then again, even when water is being used up, as said in that video, it does eventually get returned back to its original source, which until now I had no idea that was the case. And I'm not saying I'd assume that all water from the same source is used all at once for data centers and artificial intelligence. So yeah, the more you know, or in this case, the more I know. And of course, in regards to the AI companies themselves, to say that our technology is not consuming as much water as you think they are. Yes, they are. And when these tech executives and CEOs point out that the amount of water consumption is not as much as what people say the amount of water they consume, again, like in that video I just played, they are leaving out the process that is the most water intensive of all of the entire process of using water to power electricity, or at least power usage in technology in general. So yeah, even when there are valid points to be made about the advancement of artificial intelligence and the energy consumption for data centers, there will be both sides that will put a magnifying glass on certain aspects just to prove a point about how their side is not as bad as what other people make that said side out to be. It's still bad, it's about how bad is it, and are there ways to resolve these problems? I'd assume there will be ways to resolve such problems. When these problems will be solved, only time will tell, as Risk 11 would usually say in moments like this. Alright, so next Instagram reel I've sent to the group chat of the podcast, and I also sent the same exact, that specific Instagram reel, which I will play soon, also into the Project Bits team chat, where me, Eric, and Shadowminer are on in discussing in relation to the grander long-term project for Psychomatic Studios, ran by Shadowminer. I will now play the audio of that video.
It got only 226,000 live viewers. One Sketch, however, got 2 million on YouTube. This is why British TV is in a mess, because it is measuring the wrong thing and placing content in the wrong places. The Prince Andrew Cold Open got nearly 10 times the audience of the entire live broadcast, but the conversation is all about linear. K first episode, 205 for the second, 130 by episode 3. Terrifying headlines if you think the live number is the point. But it isn't. SNL in America doesn't live on Saturday night. It lives in clips, on feeds, in group chats across the whole week. The format generates billions of streams a year. The show has been on since 1975 and still produces cultural moments that land on Monday morning. British TV hasn't internalized that yet. The original SNL had 250,000 viewers in America as well, live, and then it had 50 years in the internet. If your content is good enough to clip, it will find its audience. And the question with SNL is whether the platform is designed to let it travel, and I don't believe it is. Imagine if the show was on Netflix. Imagine if it was on Amazon Prime even. Imagine if it was on YouTube first. The numbers would be far higher. People are not going to come to Sky One. They're not going to land there for the live show because that is not where people are consuming content today. This is why UK TV is stuck, because I guarantee, and I fear if the live viewers aren't higher, this show won't last. Which is a massive shame, because if it was distributed in the right place, it would be a massive hit. I'm sure of it.
That's a very good point. Whilst I'm not surprised, there will be television/movie studios that will still have the mindset of thinking about linear television and traditional movie theatres as places to showcase such content that is anything besides social media. I'm not surprised about that. What I am surprised is, in this moment in time, the amount of people, the amount of studios, corporations, a lot of them today are still possessing such mindset of looking into traditional formats of showcasing content to people. A lot of them are not utilizing social media. They're not looking at where a majority of viewership are geared towards in regards to the content that's being produced on such platforms on social media. And the point that's been made in that video is that it was shown on another platform, streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. Surely the viewership for said content will be a lot higher. And whilst live linear television will still continue to exist, it's not the mainstream format anymore. It's not the format that a lot of people are used to or currently watching. There's a thing called social media. A lot of people are on their phones, scrolling away and pressing their screens out something. The sooner these studios understand this exact reality and utilize these habits as soon as possible, the better these studios and the nationwide industry of the UK, US, and other countries around the world, the better they will do in the next few years. And who's not to say that the age of social media as means to promote content and shows, movies, is only the beginning? What if there is another era outside of social media, like how social media itself is a new era outside of linear television and going to the theaters, cinema, to watch that new movie that has came out last week? There's so much potential, yet studios are not paying attention to that. And again, I'm not surprised there will be studios that still have the mindset of showcasing content on traditional media formats. My surprise is that a lot of studios still have that mindset. There aren't many studios that are utilizing social media to showcase their content. They really should. They don't have to. I strongly suggest they should. It will serve them greatly I find it baffling that even in 2026, there are studios producing movies and TV shows aren't utilizing new modern media formats to get their content across to other people. And even if these studios don't utilize other media formats, someone else will. When I mean by someone else, I mean the fans of the shows that are being promoted on said traditional media formats. The people, the fans of these shows and movies, will do the work, what the studios should have done themselves already by now. Yet here we are. That's how the age of media and entertainment is these days. Social media, as of now, is the way. It is the platform. Not the platform. It is the format where you will see a lot of things in pop culture and within our interests being promoted and shown on our algorithmic feeds. That is the present that we are living in now. As of this recording, of course. Alright. The next most recent thing I sent to the lads in the podcast group chat is a YouTube video by Depressed Ginger, and the title of the YouTube video reads, "It's happening. Alberta vote on finally leaving Canada is October 19th. I replied directly to that YouTube video link saying it's happening, and that was before I realized the tagline "It's happening" was literally in the title of that YouTube video. What a shocker. Risk responded to me sending that YouTube video link saying, "Is this part plan? Will rest of Canada join EU?" I then responded to Risk with two links, one showing another YouTube video. Why it's not working? Wow. Okay. The two links within our group chat I sent to Risk. One is another YouTube video by EU Made Simple. Title reads, "How Europe Can Lead a Union of Middle Powers." And then another in-group chat link I've sent to Risk is a message that I also sent of another YouTube video link by the YouTube channel TLDR News EU. The title reads, "Why a quote-unquote multi-speed EU looks incredibly inevitable." And I responded directly to Risk, "Will rest of Canada join EU?" I replied with one message link, and the second message link might have the answers to that question. And of course, like I said, those exact in-group chat message links leads to two YouTube videos by two different channels discussing a multi-speed, multi-tier European Union. So, in short, the answer is maybe. If yes, on Canada's part, they're not going to be full members of the European Union. Mostly because Canada is not within the European continent. Yet, given its geopolitics, it could be possible that Canada could possibly be within a tier of the multi-speed European Union where they can be invited to discuss new ideas in regards to how society should run, functions, new innovations that are yet to be implemented, which a lot of countries are looking into implementing themselves. And having said discussions with other non-European Union countries within a particular tier of the multi-speed EU is certainly one way of the European Union of going ahead and accelerating with their progress on multiple industrial sectors. And I have said a couple episodes ago that besides Canada being the non-EU country that could be within a tier, within the lowest tier of the multi-tier EU, there were other countries, maybe Morocco, not guaranteed. However, I'd assume Morocco, given its economic power and whatever infrastructure that the biggest cities have, could be one of those African nations that could be invited to be in a forum, EU-led forum or discussion in regards to new innovations, new ideas, potential policies that would be up for discussion within EU member states' parliaments or representative deputy chambers. I only said Morocco as an example besides Canada. Not saying it's guaranteed, but Morocco could play a role in how the EU shapes. I'd assume given their economic power, they could. Now, I was thinking that Israel could also be invited to be part of EU-led forums and discussions. I know for sure that despite Israel's landmass size and population size, they do have the infrastructure and the economic power and the military. Again, despite their small size, I'd assume Israel could also play a role in how the EU goes forward with the many industrial sectors in the next few years. I was thinking of saying Russia. Yeah, I honestly, I seriously doubt. But I was joking about thinking of mentioning Russia. Yeah, of course, I know for sure that. But even if Putin is not going to be the president of Russia in the next few years, the EU will still not invite Russia to anything EU related, or still have EU will still have a grudge against Russia, even if there is a change of presidents in the next few years. Not saying there will be, even if there comes a point where Putin decides, you know what, I'm going to retire as president. I will not be running in the next presidential election. A new president comes in to be the next president of Russia. Even then, I would still believe the EU will still have a grudge against Russia, given its past and especially what's happening now. That's just me. Now, in regards to what Risk was responding, in regards to Alberta becoming the latest 51st state of the United States, seceding from Canada, what plan is Risk 11 talking about? Well, that's where that's where the screenshot he sent in comes in. A screenshot that Risk 11 had sent in just before I sent the YouTube link to Alberta seceding from Canada to join the United States. Risk 11 sent a screenshot of a news article from the Mirror. The headline reads, KLM and Lufthansa cancel hundreds of flights as fuel costs soar amid Iran war. The global air travel crisis has spread further as Lufthansa and KLM became the latest airlines to announce flights to and from major destinations, including London Heathrow by Benedict Diaz, published 17th April 2026 at 10:35 a.m. And that is all of the information that I could see from the screenshot that Risk 11 had sent. Risk himself responded to the screenshot directly, saying, "This is part of plan of protocols restrict access to going abroad from ordinary people." I don't know about you. I'm joking. I know whatever sense or reason this makes out to be, how can I argue for cancelling these flights? How can I argue for the strengthening of airport security, whilst it is necessary to keep other potential passengers safe from whatever threats come their way? What I would say is, in recent years, the amount of security that's been put in place has been implemented and extended to the point where no matter how much of a goody two-shoes average Joe you are, if you don't have the necessary paperwork, and for whatever reason, which is hypothetically speaking, you have said or done something that particular authorities would think you're kind of suspicious, your chances of going abroad to whatever country you want to go to would potentially be denied, and you couldn't go anywhere. Again, I'm aware I know there are concerns about high-level threats of individuals that will be a threat to everyday people. Even with those threats still present in today's world, that doesn't have to be a digital barrier where you put your passport in the scanner and then your face is scanned and then the gate opens. I know a lot of people think it's cool, and a lot of people say that this is a great security procedure and measure to ensure the safety of everyone in the airport. How would airports operate if such technology would not have been implemented? And there are lots of airports in the world that do not have such technology yet. Yet those airports are going about their life just fine, and there are security within the airports to ensure everyone is safe. If the bare minimum and foundational features like security guards and checkpoints with members of staff behind the desks to check people's passports, if that gets the job done just as well or as much as any new high technological digital technology that the newest modern airports in Western countries are implementing, why have the digitally advanced technology to begin with? And I'm not saying don't implement the technology. What's the need for such technology if what airports had previously before such technology had worked and are still working just as fine? I'm just saying, I'll leave it at that. And even if there is valid arguments that airports don't need advanced security checkpoints and technology, airports can still operate with whatever infrastructure and checkpoints that they have now. I know in the next few years, or even the next decade or two, airports in developing or in emerging countries, they will eventually implement these advanced digital technology security checkpoints that the modern airports in Western countries currently have right now. There will come to a point that even airports in just getting by countries or countries that are just in the midst of developing, or even, and maybe in the next century, even the poorest countries to ever exist will eventually implement these digitally advanced technologies for security checkpoints, facial recognition cameras, and scanners to scan your luggage and even aircraft to see if there is any explosives that need to be defused that, if detected sooner, would save millions of lives. Now, the latter, I'd hope such technology does actually exist to detect anything lethally dangerous. I will not argue against that. That I will say that would be necessary. In regards to the security checkpoint, where you just scan your your passport and your face at the same time, and other biometric scanning technology, what's the need for it if other airports in different countries don't have such technology and they're still getting by just alright, and they're still able to detect threats or notable figures that could and will be a threat to other people. The security guards can detect as soon as possible if something is going on, something is wrong, and flag them down immediately. If that job can be done just as well, why bring in the technology? And that is all that's been sent in our group chat as of the last time I recorded a podcast episode. So now, with all of that being said, let's get right into the rest of the news. Russian influencer responds to internet restrictions under Putin. Russian influencers and the fast food chain Vkusno E03 have publicly criticized the government in viral appeals to President Vladimir Putin, breaking a long silence from apolitical sectors. Victoria Bonya, a model with 13 million Instagram followers, detailed her grievances in a video Tuesday, claiming residents feel they are no longer living in a free country due to intensifying restrictions on social media. Criticizing government policies, Vkusno E03 noted that people raised more than 500 million rubles for flood victims through the banned social network authorities labeled as dangerous. On Thursday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov made an unusual intervention, stating the government is not ignoring the concerns raised in these videos and that issues are being addressed separately. I can't defend this. At least I can't defend about what the Kremlin are doing with social media platforms. What's the need to prevent your own people from getting their message across the globe, to raise awareness for serious situations and events where people's lives are at risk or in danger? And I don't want to hear any arguments about there's a threat of this misinformation. We don't know what's true and what's false. You can't just outright prevent people from promoting or sharing social media content on platforms used by millions of people just because some high-level individuals within the Russian government does not like particular content by groups of people that express opinions and values that the Russian people in question mostly do not agree with. It's okay to have opinions on that, and you don't have to agree what other people are saying and expressing their identity in what way. The point I'm making is, how desperate are elites going to be? How desperate are politicians going to be to prevent someone sharing grievances or sharing posts relating to a tragic incident because who knows what? Criticizing government policy. Oh wow, go figure. And again, you don't have to agree with these people. If you're going to prevent people from sharing posts and expressing their opinions because you don't agree with them, well, that's too damn bad. That's life. You're going to have criticisms. You're going to have people that don't like you. And there's certainly going to be people that will call you out on bullcrap like this. I try to look the other way, give other perspectives, the other side a chance to say what they would have to say and why they're doing this. Why are they preventing people from sharing such information, even if it is dangerous to all of society? That is worth noting, which everyone should do their due diligence, and well, at least people should do their own research in regards to such information that can be dangerously misinformed to prevent messages being sent and spread across to other users, whether it be within Russia or to other users around the world. I'm sorry, I can't defend this. I like Russia. I love their architecture. And I certainly love the snow. I don't know why I like the snow. For some reason, the snow in Russia, it intrigues me. Yeah, I have nothing against Russia. At least, I like the people, I like the architecture, and many of the development projects I saw on YouTube, they look very good. I love the development projects going on within Russia. Even then, with my positive aspects and opinions on the Russian Federation, the Russian government is going to restrict their own people from sharing content, even if it means a majority of Russians do not agree with what the message of these posts are. Why? How desperate are you to ensure you don't get a bad rap? At least in regards to the LGBT community, understandable. I don't agree with it. I understand that people in Russia don't agree with that. It's okay to have such opinions. What I would say is, how desperate are the Kremlin to ensure that no one gets the chance to say what they want to say just because what they're saying about the current government and whatever policies that's going to be put in place for the Russian people, the Kremlin themselves don't agree what the people in Russia are saying about said policies. Again, you don't have to agree with the people, yet you can't stop people from expressing their opinions. 5.5 million bees found nesting under an Ithaca cemetery. Cornell University researchers discovered an estimated 5.5 million ground nesting Andrina regularis bees beneath East Lawn Cemetery in Ithaca, New York. Published it, the study identifies the site as one of the largest and oldest known bee aggregations globally. East Lawn Cemetery provides a stable, undistributed environment serving as a vital refuge for native species. Researchers noted burial sites act as sentinels of biodiversity, where the dead protect the living, protecting species from urban development. The team used mesh emergence traps to measure population density, estimating over 800 bees per square meter. This concentration equals the activity of between 140 to 270 honeybee hives in just 1 hectare. This solidarity Solitary bees are highly efficient pollinators for local crops like apples and blueberries. Activity surges as temperatures rise above 68 degrees Fahrenheit, with bees emerging in early spring to feed and mate. Senior author Brian Danforth warned that losing these nest sites could destroy 5.5 million important pollinators instantly. The discovery highlights the urgent need to protect such aggregations, which remain understudied compared to hive-dwelling counterparts. Well, that's a lot of bees. I'd assume the people that have found these nests, these hives, they'll know how to properly move them about to a safer location where these hives can continue to thrive to the best of their extent. I'd assume there will be people that will move these hives to another location where they can continue to grow from the size they're at right now without having to disturb or interrupt any of the surroundings they're in right now. And something I will say, bees are very important for our ecosystem. The bees are what keeps the flowers as gorgeous and colourful as they are. Without the bees, well, the flowers are just going to look bleak and dull and very depressed. Not that they should be. If the bee movie's anything to teach us from that, yeah, there's no arguing with the bee movie. Even if it's an animated movie, it's spot on the impact how bees have in ensuring the floral and the fauna within our society, in our local communities, and a possible third thing too. Because why not? Why not? Madonna surprises Coachella by joining Sabrina Carpenter on stage. On Friday, icon Madonna made a surprise appearance at Coachella, joining headliner Sabrina Carpenter to perform Vogue, Like a Prayer, and a new duet during her second weekend set. Madonna reflected on her Coachella debut 20 years ago, calling the return a full circle moment, and saying it was very meaningful for me, wearing the same boots and Gucci jacket from 2006. Early this week, Madonna announced her upcoming album, Confessions Part 2, slated for July 3rd via Warner Records, marking her first full-length album in 7 years and a reunion with producer Stuart Price. Carpenter's set also featured actress Gina Davis delivering a monologue as an older version of the singer, and Terry Crews performing at an rendition of Vanessa Carlton's 8,000 Miles. This headlining performance follows Carpenter's 2025 achievements. She concluded her short and sweet tour and was named Variety's Hitmaker of the Year, solidifying her festival prominence. Wow, that's a lot to talk about. Madonna releasing a new album after many years. Sabrina Carpenter achieving what she has achieved, and I can't say I know much about the actor and actresses that also at Coachella. I'd assume they also made an impact as well, and they will continue to do great things in the future. I'll leave it at that. Let's just wait and see where these stories go with the artists, the celebrities, in whatever work they're doing right now. Portugal, thousands rally in Lisbon against planned labour reform. Tens of thousands of people occupied Lisbon's main avenue to protest the government's planned labour reforms, which unions argue would erode workers' rights and deepen job insecurity. The minority centre-right government approved the draft bill in September to address structurally low productivity, but it triggered the country's first general strike in more than a decade last December, with more than half of workers earning less than $1,180 monthly in Portugal. The bill now awaits parliamentary submission, where far-right Chega Party has said it may offer support. the bill is undergoing mandatory consultations with unions and business groups before reaching Parliament, a process following the country's first general strike in more than a decade last December. If Risk was on here right now, he would be very pleased with that. He will be, yeah, he certainly will be. Risk will certainly be pleased with that. What I would say for this, I'm not just going to say only time will tell, because what would happen once the bill is passed? I know a couple of months ago there was a presidential election in Portugal, and the newly elected president of Portugal, the party that he represents, is on the left, is on politics. However, in Portugal, being the president is more of a ceremonial role. I'm not sure if there's any authority or power as being president of Portugal, yet that's all I know about how government structure works in Portugal. But a lot of the laws that are passed, drafted, and established is all made by Portugal's Prime Minister in the representative chamber. Now, this is going to be a stretch. I've seen many YouTube videos in the last year or two where people, mostly from Britain, they've gone to Portugal, find abandoned farmhouses in the countryside, renovate them, and then these foreigners, mostly Brits, from the videos I've watched in the past, once they finish renovating these houses, they live in them themselves. They live in said houses themselves. Because from what they've said in their own YouTube videos, the cost of living in Portugal is more affordable there than it is in the UK, which says a lot about what the cost of living in the UK is like. If it encourages people to move to Portugal, find abandoned houses, renovate them for however euros they have in their bank accounts, and then after the renovation, they're going to enjoy living in Portugal for how many years they like to live in Portugal. Why don't people in Portugal utilize all of the free, unused land that the nation of Portugal has? Of course, I know a lot of the economic opportunities come from major cities like Lisbon, Porto, coastal towns in the south. I believe that such opportunities found in these major cities in Portugal, or at least finding economic opportunities in any major city in any country, is becoming overrated. I believe it comes to a point, if people can't find jobs in major cities in their home countries, surely there will come a point, hypothetically, where people in small rural or suburban communities, they take into their own hands and measures to create opportunities for themselves. And they will try to attract people from major cities to come over to their small local communities and provide not just economic output to those small local communities. These small communities will eventually find ways to provide some kind of marketing and publicity to show that their so-called small community, well, their small community, is a great alternative to this city or that city, because, well, that city and this city, the prices there are very expensive. If you come out to our small community, you can get what you want at a fraction of the price. Because no, not many people have heard about us, so why not take the opportunity? And I believe that's where we're heading towards, not just in terms of how communities like settlements, not just how settlements like cities and towns are functioning, also in terms of the tourism, where people go on holiday to other small communities outside of major cities, as well as possibly finding a new place to live. Whilst these communities have big city benefits and perks, there's also small town costs at the same time. If prices in major cities continue to go high and increase without stopping, and it comes to a point where people in said cities cannot afford to live in those cities, they're going to move out, and they're going to find other small towns and villages to move into, not just to live the rest of their lives, they're going to find ways to establish new opportunities in industrial sectors and create new job opportunities in said small communities. Once the demand for moving into that small town or village is there, then these small towns and villages grow gradually over time as people in the city, in big major cities, move out, not just because of rising costs. Well, actually, costs is all I can think of. I know there will be other reasons. So anyway, back to the story about Portugal planning labour reforms. I know Risk will certainly be happy with this kind of story. Let's just see how it goes with what's going on in Portugal. Not going to say, oh, I won't say it will be a success. At the same time, I won't say it will be as bad as what people are protesting make it out to be. There's going to be a good and a bad side to it. Even then, I will say, even if these labour reforms do go ahead, you have to ask yourself, what's going to happen to these major economic cities, or at least the major cities in countries around the world, that provide a majority of the economic output for their respective countries? Will more people move into these major cities, or will these people living in these major cities move out to smaller towns or villages? And if there's more benefits that outweigh the negatives from moving out of a big city to a small town, then why wouldn't people make that move? Not just to find a more affordable place to live, if they are willing to establish and make new jobs in those small towns and villages, or enough support from those said local communities, I'd say anything is possible. And that is it for the episode.